Hello, everyone. Uh, Patrick here. You may have forgotten me. It's been a little while. I'm putting it down to the excellence of our weather during this past summer, which has continued into the autumn, and our almost complete lack of rain. Now, I'm sure there are many of you out there who are aware of what's been going on, but there you go. That's my little story and why I haven't put out a video in a little while. Waiting for rain, in any case. I hope you're all well. Today, I'd like to broach a subject and a word which is probably a little too well worn to, once say overused, certainly perhaps used incorrectly. That's empathy. And I think it's important that everybody has their own idea of what empathy is within the boundaries of empathy. Being empathetic is the ability to walk in another person's shoes for a little while, for a brief moment, and during that time realize how damn difficult it is for the other person without feeling the need to say anything, but being there and being able to look at somebody with some modicum of humanity. So when the other person looks at you, what they see is not a mirror, they see some level of understanding, no judgment, no rush to offer what you think of what they've just said to you, of what you know they're going through, that you don't become sympathetic, or you don't decide that it's important that you give your views on what's going on. And this is very, very difficult. We don't always manage to do that very well. And I have no idea why. I only try to improve my own vision of what that might be. And I know the parameters of empathy are very narrow. But I also know it's very easy to make a complete and utter mess of it. But it's also not that difficult to get right. Just follow a few simple guidelines. Yeah. If you can, listen. If you can't, as little as possible. It's not about you. It's about the other person. They may not be directly implicated, but it may touch them personally. This, I think, is where many people fall down. They might think to themselves, hang on, you barely knew that person or those people, or you weren't exactly close to the events when these things happen. I don't think that's a good approach. It's much easier to say, you want to tell me? If not, I'll sit here. I'll, you know that you're this little micro environment in which we find ourselves now, you and I, it's fine. It's safe. That's all that person, my feeling, that's all that person wants to know. They want to know that it's okay. They want to feel that however this is affecting them, that they can take the time with somebody, not have to think about it, to let it pass. This could be momentary, could be maybe a tiny touch of psychosis or a little flashback or seeing somebody that did them harm 20 years before. All they want is probably to feel safe. I think in their shoes, were that to happen, only thinking of my own life, there have been bad moments. And some things make us think of those bad moments. And often all we want is to feel that it's okay, that I'm not going to let this affect me. If there's someone there to help you, I think it's much easier. Much, much easier, in fact. And all we want is a friendly face. Now, if they see my face, they're probably going to think, who's he? They want to see somebody who's looking at them. I mean, really, really, really looking at them. And it's sincere. And I think this underpins empathy. Sincerity and a willingness to listen. You do not have to be the world's greatest listener, but at some stage, you have to shut up and listen. Some people who may not think they're empathetic, maybe it's the fact that they are talking so much to somebody, the other person, who just think, oh, God, I don't have to say anything here. This is great. I can just let this go out of my mind. That may also work. But it's the exchange. There is an exchange. That's the important part. It's allowing yourself to be used. That's very difficult. That's a very difficult idea for us to be able to engage in because it is a shared experience, that idea. Very difficult to think of ourselves as being used by somebody else in any way. And I think it's the most difficult part of empathy. If you can get over that, I'm not saying you'll master the subject. I don't think there is a way of mastering it. But there are certainly ways and means of being very helpful to a person when they need it most. It could last a minute, it might last a day. You may end up seeing that person repeatedly and you'll end up speaking about the same things. How patient can you be? These parameters are elastic. You're either in it or you're not. Because if you drop the person, it's not going to make them feel any better now, is it? Especially after several meetings. These could be, at work, sitting down. I'm always having tea and sandwiches. I'm not cut down the bread now, but it's a philosophical sandwich. Yeah. People get used to each other in that respect. But that doesn't mean to say you have to take it ad nauseum. You can say to the person that this, I think for you, should go somewhere, not stay in stasis. But then you're also developing out of this. That's not the goal. But you will. You'll learn new ways of saying things, better ways of saying things. And that begs the question, are we empathetic? Very few people are, naturally. But it's like many skills. We acquire skills. Some we use like tools. Some we never master. Just the ones that we have a very loose idea of, are those are the ones which on which we must work most. Like any classroom, teachers' attention should, in an ideal world, be given to those who need it most, not the A students. Those in the middle will always be in the middle, generally. It's those at the bottom who are most likely to end up at the top. They need the help. I'm not saying in that class, but somewhere, if they get that help, it'll make them see, I can. Being empathetic, you may think you're not, but I would make a good bet that in most people it's there. It's about being kind. It takes more than that. You can't be one dimensional. But you don't have to add an awful lot. If you're kind, maybe a little afraid. If you're brash and afraid of putting yourself at the service of someone else, think of the times you have. If you're a kind person but you're shy, well, think of all the times you've had to sit there and listen. You have these abilities, you have these skills. It takes some work. You may not want to put yourself in that position because it's a responsibility. And this is why I think many people will shy away from opening themselves in any way. Because it is, you are entering a partnership with somebody for however long that lasts. You may be afraid of saying the wrong thing. But the big secret is you don't have to say anything. Pretend you can't talk. Just look, this, these here. These are the most important part for me. And can we be better? I think we can be better generally. You wouldn't want to be worse now, would you? It's, that that is not a good thing. Regression is never a good thing. At the very least, try to look forward, no matter how difficult it is. And maybe giving a piece of yourself to somebody else, because even in a voiceless way, taking the time, your general demeanor, opening yourself, it's a very difficult thing to do, but it's incredibly rewarding. Now, at the end of it, that person could tell you the Foxtrot Oscar in no uncertain terms, but it's about them, certainly. It's also about you. And you look at yourself afterwards and you think, I'm glad I did that. I really am. The ending wasn't what I hoped, but then the hero doesn't always live, which is great. I'd write a lot of films. I would rewrite a lot of films just to have better endings for the hero. The heroic death. The Greeks loved all that sort of thing. And then I would say something like this: listen, listen, listen. You don't have to say anything, like I said. You don't. Probably nice if you utter the odd syllable every now and then. But that's not what a person experiencing a moment of difficulty or an hour of difficulty or day of difficulty, repeated difficulty is looking for. They're looking for someone to sit there, look at them. If you can manage one of these, even better. But if you can manage this, you might find it difficult even to speak. But if you can show mm, mm, that there's something happening behind the eyes, what I've found, it gets a response. I'm not a professional. My own dealings with people, you get a good response from people if you're sincere. Now, this is also how a lot of sociopaths and psychopaths operate. They can look very convincing. But I think if you take the time to go over where doesn't the only thing at play is an emotional exchange, I think most people can deal with that. But this is where the fear comes in. Is this person trying to get something? In both cases, you go and help somebody, you're exposing yourself. The other person is exposing themselves. So in the end, it's a matter of confidence. It's a matter of huge trust. Is it worth it? That's the question we have to ask ourselves ultimately. Is it worth it? Is it worth being nice to somebody? Is it worth opening ourselves to somebody, even for the briefest of moments? And then you can think about being empathetic and what that involves. Because, like I said, it doesn't involve a huge amount. Approaching somebody, being kind, looking kindly upon somebody. It's opening yourself. It's, are you willing to take the other person's openness eventually when they tell you what might be wrong or what might not be wrong? Because I could look up a book and give you the clinical description of being empathetic. I don't think that will help anyone. At least my own feelings about it. I don't think I'm too far off the mark. I'm not saying to go out and experiment. What I am saying is that start with yourself. Can you show yourself empathy? It may have to do with self confidence, it may have to do with shifting your view of yourself. I think beginning with yourself. Interesting little exercise. So there you go. I've spoken about putting yourself in front of a mirror before. Can you do that? Could you do it? Would you do it? These things aren't without links. That's all I'd have to say about empathy. It's tough for everyone concerned. It's tougher for the person who's had to endure being wronged, being slighted. Could be as simple as, you know, the girlfriend hasn't turned up, the boyfriend hasn't turned up, or I saw somebody who really was unkind to me many years ago, or just had somebody try to beat me up. But it's a long list. Those are just a few examples. I would say practice on yourself. You can speak to the person opposite you in the mirror and develop the feeling. Empathy is something it doesn't, it's, nailing jelly to a wall. It's either generally you have it or you don't have it, but you can develop it to a low degree, perhaps. But it's there somewhere. Some people have it naturally. It flows out of them. Some people are always very, very happy and smiling. Others couldn't raise a smile if they won the lottery, but inside they're very happy. It's very difficult to see these differences, but they are there somewhere. You can tell if somebody's somewhat genuine, I think. I hope. Maybe I can't. Maybe I'm being a fool to myself. But look, before I start rambling on, just think of it that way. Practice on yourself. If you think you want to become more empathetic, you may never have the wonderful opportunity of being of some assistance to somebody. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll choose it as a profession. If you think that, hang on, I think I'm not, but then I'm able to sit there with somebody not get bored. You can usually say the right things. What does that mean? You'll figure it out. Go and help some people if you think you have. Like I said, if it happens once in your life, at least there's that. If everybody did it once, the world would be a happier place. I'm going to leave you now. It's a sunny evening, and I may decamp outside for a little libation. To the gods, naturally. Pray for rain. So be good, be well, be happy, be healthy. And if you have a goddess, God, your goddess or your god, very soon.